Hey guys, it is Lucid, and welcome back. We're going to be doing the Pretender design for this nation. So, quick overview of the nation, for those of you who missed the national overview, is it's a nation of human slaves and jinn, and we get kind of mediocre, but okay, human mages. We get this guy, and this guy, and this guy, which we can get, recruit anywhere. And then we got some jinn, which are really cool. We've got some kind of mediocre but cheap human troops we can get, and then we get jinn we get out of our capital. It's kind of the idea of the nation: jinn out of your capital, and then kind of human bronze covered garbage everywhere else. And we are a nation that has some very interesting plays we can do. And when we talk about Pretender design, it's all about figuring out what your timings are going to be, what your vulnerabilities are, how we're going to make up for it. Well, we're going to have some very good timings with this nation, but it's going to depend a lot on what our opponents have. So if they have fire shock resistance, they're not going to be a great target for us. We're going to have to maybe not go evocation. We maybe have to try something else. We're going to have to try something different. If they like fire shock resistance, magic weapons, spirit sight, oh my god, forget about it. And it's going to be hard for us to fight those. But we have options. We can just potentially, they've got all that stuff. Well, how are they going to do against, like 200 archers? The flaming arrows might not help, but, I don't know. There's a bunch of things we can try, all right? And then, maybe they're going to be vulnerable to our seducers. There's a lot of things we can do. But in my opinion, one of the best trump cards we can play is, like, very good evocation timings. The problem of getting... Let's look at some of the problems with this. One problem is this guy right here. He can be fire shock resistance 10 if he spends 2 turns doing those respective buffs. Which wasn't something I thought about when I've been making my build. So we're going to kind of talk through that. Before, I had been thinking that if we want to have mages that can survive all of our bullshit, we probably need to take it in our bless. And aside from that... because these guys actually, could be pretty useful. The air ones get the air 2 and storm, which is going to be pretty much the only time we use them in combat. The fire ones, we can give them a fire in a jar, and they can all phoenix power. And fire in jars we could potentially be making for 3 fire gems. So having like 10 of these guys in an army would only be like 30 fire gems. So not like prohibitively expensive. And that's, going to be 10 fire or pillars of fire a turn once we get to that tech. But even before then, there's some stuff they can do. And the earth ones are okay for earth buffing. The problem, though, is if we're going to do this, the idea is, okay, are these guys super efficient and great? No, but they're going to be able to survive Firestorm and Wrathful Skies, which is important, which is very important. So, yeah, I think if you don't take a fire shock resistance bless, you probably want to use these guys, especially if you're going to be doing the evocation thing. The problem, though, is like we don't get a ton of mileage on our bless. Like these guys, this guy's sacred, but if we look at like the Shaitan... One second, let's go to our test game real quick. The Shaitan is not sacred. This guy is sacred and a preacher, so like we can potentially buff him up. And these guys have cold weakness. That's the other kind of like major weakness we have. So there's a bunch of things we have to think about when we're playing this nation. One of them is what are we going to do when like Grip of Winter goes up? Because we're going to pass out super fast with Grip of Winter. Like cold resistance Grip of Winter, it's not good. Or like we get attacked by Niflheim, or for whatever reason we have to attack Niflheim. Like we're gonna avoid that, but like there's giants. Like it might be good to have some cold resistance that we can do. Now we can do the cold resistance spell, which you can do in fire, resist cold right here, right? So, but this is only gonna give you 5 cold resistance, so it's just gonna get rid of it. You're not really gonna be able to attack people with it. One option, and I think this is what like Kirby suggested or something in his video, which if you haven't seen Kirby's video, go check it out. He's got a good guide on Ubar. But basically just going full scales, right? So you can get productivity, so you can make a ton of gen, you get some dominion, you get growth, Right? Maybe you don't, because you get a growth site in your cap. So you may only want to take growth 1. You could take growth 2 or 3. You want magic 3 for sure. Maybe you want a bit of luck. I don't know. You do something like this, right, and have very good scales. You always want to be dormant, and you always want magic 3. I think these are the things that are kind of like non-negotiable. And then you take something on your bless, like, you know, fire resistance, and then like magic resistance or something. It's gonna be good on your thugs. Yeah, I don't know. You could do something like this, right? This would not be a bad way to play. How I'm thinking about it is I think I want to go really high evocation. So anyway, I have some options. One is you could just get this guy, the God Block, and I'm not sure if these scales are right. You might want to have more productivity and maybe sacrifice some luck. But there's also one thing I want to talk about too. This is an early age nation, and one thing I didn't come to appreciate, I didn't even know when I first started playing Dominions, is that early age has less population. A lot less population. It means things like blood hunting are harder to do in the early age by a good bit. You're gonna have more gems, but you're gonna have less people. What that means is that scales in general are less good in early age. Because more, like if you look at the total amount of value that's being generated in all your provinces, much more of that's going to be coming from gems than it is from money. And so things like getting up globals, controlling globals, which we're going to have plenty of gems to do, like those things, in my opinion, are relatively more important in the early age than they are in other ages. So going full scales in the early age, I'm kind of less a fan of. But I think it's important. You can't not have troops, right? So if you're going to go like gems and globals, you have to be willing to like spend mage turns to make magic troops with gems and things like that, or like, you know, have blood economy and make troops that way. So like we need troops, that's for sure. But if they don't have to come from gold, and so that's like an important thing I think to kind of wrap our head around. But anyway, if we're going to go for just a super basic bless, going fire shock resistance is not bad. It means we can use these super budget mages. We can use them in our evocation wipes, right? And they're not really going to die to Wrathful Skies and Flames from the Sky and stuff. I mean, and Firestorm. That's basically what you're buying with this, is you're buying the ability to take your crappy researchers into combat with a Doom stack and have them be relevant. And if you think about it, there's a lot to say for this, because what is going to survive Wrathful Skies and Firestorm? I'll tell you. It's going to be Sacreds that have fire shock resistance on them. And so now you have mages who potentially can do Pillar of Fire, who can potentially do, well, maybe not Incinerate, but like, well, see, I guess the little ones, because we're talking through it now. The little ones, the baby mages, they are going to only be able to do... So the fire ones, once I get Evocation 8, are going to be able to do Pillar of Fire, which will kill Sacreds with fire shock resistance. But they're not really going to kill stuff before it. And the air randoms, even with the Storm Power and being Air 2, they're not going to be able to Thunderstrike, which is how you're going to kill Sacreds. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think it may be better to just go full out on these guys, and you'll research faster. And you don't have to build temples. I think it may be better to do that. I'll show you some of the other builds. So we may change them, and we'll do it together, because it's interesting. What's funny is I have spent so much time preparing, thinking about this. I spent a lot of time thinking about Ubar. I don't know why. It's embarrassing to admit, but I have. And just doing this national overview, talking about it, I've kind of, I realized that I might have kind of built them wrong. And maybe, I'll show you the rest of the guys we built. They're all based kind of on this strategy, but I have a bunch of different varieties. I think this is the same thing, different scales. This is kind of interesting. This was built on the idea of what if we position ourselves to go for Galegate, and like we're gonna get some other stuff so that we can do things like a bit of conjuration, a bit of alteration, a bit of enchantment. But the first thing we really go gangbusters on is Galegate. And maybe with this, you would actually have to go like construction 6 first too. Well, so it's not exactly rushing Thom 8, but because this guy can make Staff of Staff of Elemental Mastery, and he can make your whatchamacallit, your air hat and stuff. He can get up high enough to cast Galegate. He's also going to give you the good resistances, so you can use your sacred mages in your evocation wipe stuff. But the thing is, this is less relevant if we're really rushing Thaumaturgy. What's important about this chassis is he's high dominion, and high dominion is going to be very important for the Thaumaturgy portion, which is like dark skies and stuff like that. So anyway, it's a thought. It may work. The thing I've been leaning to is, and I'll make her with you. I've been leaning towards this lady, a Titan. There's a lot of nice things about a Titan. One is we're going to be dormant, so our Titan's going to wake up. Like, dormant Titan is a thing, right? And I had liked these paths. One thing is I wanted to have high water because it allows me to have like a special forces team that can have cold resistance. And nature is kind of nice because it means, first of all, if we go, like, we can potentially foul vapors people. It also means that if we're bringing in this mage special forces, they can be immune to foul vapors, which is one of the things we're going to be vulnerable to. So it's like, how do we deal with foul vapors? Early Age doesn't have a ton of foul vapors, but if I had a nickel for every time I've been completely boned by a foul vapors trap. Swamp Survival actually is kind of okay, too, to have on Sacreds and Mages. It means we can cast Quagmire, which people never think about. And then Fire Shock Resistance. And then it's like, boom, we can bring our crappy Mages. And they're going to be immune to cold plays, poison plays. So basically we can fill the battlefield up with wipes, like especially if we bring our god. The other thing is this god would be badass in combat. Personal regen, moss body, iron skin, temper flesh, or liquid body. Feel good about it. Like, you want to rush me down? Be my fucking guest. Be my guest. For scales, you always have to take Magic 3. We would go Growth 1 here. You ideally want some of this. We can nix a bit of that. We have really good heroes, and if we don't have death, we really do want the death hero to break us into death. So there's an argument for not canceling this. And the other thing is this pretender chassis can do Celestial Rainbow, which means if we take Magic or Luck 1, with Celestial Rainbow we'll become Luck 3, and it'll start blocking spells and all sorts of goodness. So this, I think, would be a solid build. It opens up a lot of things: foul vapors traps, super combating with our god. It doesn't give us like Staff of Elemental Mastery or anything cool, but it gives us cool stuff. It also does not allow us to summon Marid. We'd have to figure out how we would do that. Maybe like water empowering once we had Maelstrom up, or we wait for our hero, and our hero would be able to do it. So that is that. I think you could probably win a game with this build. It's good. It relies on running down Evocation. And the thing is, if you go this route, we're going to be resistant to a lot of the plays, like Foul Vapors, which, like Niflheim can do, Sarmatia can do. I'm not sure what all nations are going to be in the game, though. So I don't know how relevant it will be, but anyway. It's a thing. The thing, though, is if we're not, it's a lot of a blend. It's expensive. Let's list out all the good things this build can do, because it can do a lot. It can do Earthquake, so like summon Earth Power and then dropping like 4 Earthquakes on an army would be pretty hilarious. Especially when all our stuff is flying. So that would be a thing. Dropping foul vapors is a thing. And what else can we do? We can do Quagmire, which is potentially good with swamp survival. This also opens up high nature stuff to us. Earth is something we have enough of to site search, but we don't have a lot of Earth, right? So this also opens up high Earth to us, which means like pretty trivial access to Army of Gold and stuff like that. And high water, not super duper great, but it does mean we can do Murdering Winter and stuff if we catch, which, I mean, we're going to have this reasonably early, right? So we can drop Murdering Winter. The thing is, like, when would we want it? Because our land's going to be Heat 3, where it's not very good. So we would have to be using it probably on the offensive against the Cold Nation without cold resistance. So I don't exactly know when we would use it, but there's potentially options. The problem, though, is it's a little heavy on a bless for a nation without sacreds, right? And it would be relying mostly on using this as our mage, when the more I think about it, the more I think this is still the mage to use even with battlefield wipes. The only reason this would not be the mage is if we're fighting into cold plays, which actually these guys could even still survive against cold plays because they can do cold resistance. What they're not going to be good against is foul vapors. Like, we will get completely wrecked by foul vapors. And if we look at how vulnerable are we to foul vapors? Well, our guys have a fair amount of HP. They don't have a weakness to foul vapors. But the thing is even if we have this as our bless, we can do our sultans, and have them with a bodyguard of like the elite dudes who are all sacred. We can get them all blessed up and have like only sacreds. And then with everybody blessed, they're not going to get hurt at all by. So we can do like a switcheroo. And people are like, oh, we're going to do foul vapors. And then we have all these fire guys who are resistant to all this bullshit that they're going to throw at us. And we're throwing out Firestorm and Wrathful Skies and stuff. And they have like 6 turns to kill us before they're all dead. So this is viable. And I've got this saved somewhere. But this would be what we would do if we're running down Evocation. And we can just be... It's one thing I didn't talk about this nation too. The thing to not forget about is we're stealthy and flying. Which means we can basically, especially once we get a force big enough to like one turn pop a fort, we can just be anywhere. I mean, it would be so horrible to play against this. It would be so horrible. Anyway. So there's this, but the nice thing is if we're all in on the attack, having a Titan to defend would be super nice. Especially like people are like, oh, I'm going to fight him because I've got my magic weapon, bless, and we've got Spirit Sight, we'll just kill all this Jinn. And I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, but I've got a Titan who is literally immune to all of your bullshit that you put down. So I sent all my Jinn on the offensive, completely ignored the armies they're sending attacking me, and I used my god to kill them all. Could be cool, right? So anyway, this is one option. How would we do it if we want to instead just go, like, if we look at this, what is it I need for the Evocation play? I really just need the water. The water is what's going to get me, like, Maelstrom and some other cool shit. And I can do everything else without it. So, like, what would be the cheapest way to do it? Maybe this. But I also kind of want to have a god. Do I have, like, a god of water? These are expensive. Frost Dragon, no thank you. I don't want to be relying on these guys. Blood. God, this guy's so cheap, 180. This guy's really good too, but not water. Amphibious comes with a 2 water elementals. Ooh. You could go somebody like this too for like a real Galegate rush. See, I think this would still be the chassis I would use. I think you really do want to tighten with these guys, because the pressure, I think, is going to be on. especially if we play aggressive. So, and we definitely, you know, if we look at it, oh shit, I have the mod on. Okay, well, I can still see the path. Water 6 to cast Maelstrom. This is water 7. I mean, we only need to be technically like water 4, so we could maybe ditch one of these, right? And I mean, how much do we get back if we ditch this? I mean, see, it's not much. And we get reinvigoration or something, but I don't think that would be worth it. I mean, because if we could just go like this, because this is all you would really need to have a super combatant. Maybe like that. It's 171 points compared to... It's only like 120 more points to get all these, which opens us into high earth and high nature. See, I think that's still the build I want to do. Even it gives us flexibility though, and so we'll have to pick what we use. Do we do? And I think this I'll probably change this around. Maybe heat 3 still and take some of the luck off, because I think we only, especially if we get Celestial Rainbow, we only need luck 1, and the difference between luck 1 and luck 3 is not huge for heroes. It's not like we have a good multi-hero or anything. We have really good heroes, but we only have 2 really good heroes, really, I think. So we could get 3 productivity, maybe. I might tinker around with some of that. But if we're doing Firestorm, I think higher heat's probably good. And we have combustion and stuff too, which, like, that one spell does area effect 10 combustion in addition to deleting one dude. Combustion's way better in heat. So I don't know. I might do the build I showed you guys. This would be heat 3, this would be luck 1. And then otherwise it's probably the same. But yeah, God, this god would be so nasty in combat. So nasty. Very, very hard to fight. Like, can probably even deal with Van Heers and stuff. And Van Heers are very hard to deal with a god. We'll show you how tough she is real quick. Do I have debug mod on? I do. So, well, I think I actually have it loaded up here. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to make a bunch of water elementals. I'll put you all the way up here at the very front. We're going to jam PD through the roof. And we'll have you retreat afterwards. And we'll have you patrol, and you'll spam out bullshit. So. Okay. Perfect. And then we're going to get our god ready. Oh, wait, shit. This is going to be their dominion. 1 second. We're going to need to relocate. Wraithlord. Okay. And here we're going to do a 50 PD dump. And we're going to move you back. We're going to move you over here. Perfect. And then we're going to kit our god up. So the kit we're going to make for our god, we're going to want to make mostly construction 2 stuff, because we're not going to have access to a lot of the better stuff. We'll probably be able to crank one of these out pretty early. We definitely could make one of these, so I'll have that as an option. I think we can make... I can't remember if the shitty boots are construction 2 or not. I think these are construction 2, so we'll probably make those. But we might not have nature gems, so we'll see. This is construction 2. And then I can't remember if this is construction 2 or not. But this will definitely have one of those. I think this is construction 2 too. And we probably want one more of these things. I don't think I can make a trident. I think this is construction 2. I don't know if that'll help. We'll probably make one of these. I don't know if all these things are construction 2. We could swap around to get something maybe a little more appropriate. But anyway, this is what it's going to be for now. Oh, I didn't make a hat. For the hat, we'll do probably just this thing. And we'll see. I don't know if she can do water elementals, but we'll find out. So we're going to be in friendly dominion. It's like we got attacked. And we're just going to do personal region. Or I think we're going to do earth power, iron skin, personal region, temper flesh, and then moss body, and then attack closest. And that will probably be our kit. But this is like stuff that somebody would have to deal with if they're gonna come attack me. Weekend, that's not really ideal. I'd probably do liquid body instead of temper flesh. Protection 35, we're going to be regenning. How much a turn? We've gotten some afflictions. I've got to get down to a little bit more and we'll start regenning. Here we go. Yeah, 11 a turn. Yeah. And then we have blood on this nation, so we can potentially blood feaster and stuff later. Now, the water elementals aren't really in here yet. They kind of are coming in. We're not really surrounded by them. So this isn't like as hard as it would be. But I don't know. We probably could have put more thought into like what gear we have too. But anyway. We probably have a lot of that, maybe not all of that online year 1, but pretty close. And then I mean, yeah. Which is one of the things she can do too. You know, she can also be doing all other sorts of bullshit. You know, recuperation would not be horrible either. For her, it would also be good if we're going to be doing Phoenix Pyre bullshit with like these idiots. How much would that cost? I forget how much recuperation is. I don't think it's very expensive. 5, it'll only be one more. That recuperation would be an option. Let's take a look real quick. Then we really get to abuse our god. Go a little bit lower here. Cold resistance. We're gonna have to kick out swamp survival, which doesn't really matter. But I mean, that would be good for our Sultan, but it wouldn't be good for our Shaitan. Yeah, it wouldn't be very good. I think it's a waste. I mean, it opens up some... Yeah, I mean, it would be a waste. I think I'd go the other thing. And that way, if we're fighting a Foul Vapors nation, we can at least move in some of our sacred troops. But yeah, you can also totally play this nation full scales. I think the thing... My final closing thoughts, my recommendation to you, is think about... You know, I mentioned what are the good schools. Enchantment always has interesting things you can do, but the big ones are Evocation and Alteration, right? And potentially some Conjuration. I don't think rushing high Conjuration with this nation is good, but you could, go to Conjuration 5 or something. And then potentially, the Mimi thing is to go deep in thaumaturgy. So think about what it is you want to pick up while you go down there. So like if we go down Alteration, we've got, like if we get Earth or Nature 5, we could potentially try to fight for Mother Oak. We're never going to control it as a nation without any base nature mages to do site searching. But, it's a thing to think about, and like it's going to be a similar type of thing with water, because we're not going to have a high water income, but we're probably going to have access to it if we can go out and site search water when we wake up. We potentially can have access to Maelstrom before other nations. So anyway, all things to think about, but think about, I would say you can go full scales, but I would encourage you to think about what are some globals you want to control in addition to that, based on what you think your research priorities are going to be. So anyway, that is my guide for Pretender design for the nation of Ubar. We will see you next episode in the game. Cheers.